arch here so you can get a little closer to the action. Looks like you're too shy to get close, I guess, so you want to look in the eyes of a future candidate for United States Congress, you might want to move a little closer. We're going to open first with a prayer, then the pledge. George, please.
God our Father, we thank you for this time to gather together, and I thank you for these people and their hearts to grow and to learn and understand and process and apply truth to our lives. And God, I pray that you just help us to do that tonight. Bless each speaker and each participant, Father, and may we live our lives in a way that bring you honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated or stand if you like. I mean, herding cats, I can tell you to sit down, but you're just going to do whatever you want to do. We've got a couple of announcements I think we'll take care of first. We have a treasurer's report. That's one of the things, Mary. We have an announcement from an event coming up this weekend from Octavia. And so, Mary, would you like to start out with a little report?
We currently have $1,251.64 in the bank and on hand. I don't want to reverberate. We depend solely on those. It's really important because even, the meeting room costs $100 and radio spots cost, hundreds of some dollars. And so in order for us to stay on top of things, we really depend on donations. The donation bucket up there by the food is really for the food. The food is donated so that we can keep the donations so that people can eat. So, because everybody else would be hungry when they go home. So that allows you to come and eat in lieu of going to a restaurant. So I am going to pass the bucket around. And for details, as far as expenditures or income for the year, I have that in a report form. So any details, feel free to ask me. That's it. $1,251.64.
Thank you, Mary. I was paying attention to my notes. I'm sorry about that. I got limited capacity here. Octavia, there's an event going on. He said he's going to be close to the microphone. Look at this guy run.
I was closer to this mic.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I had an emergency phone call from the office, so I will take care of it. I'm Octavio Sanchez from Benton County, and me and a few others are organizing an educational event this coming Saturday at 1 p.m. Murphy Park. The intent.
Stand up here.
1 p.m. Saturday the 15th, Murphy Park, from 1 to 4, and the intent is to educate on the political life of the U.S. to whoever wants to listen. We have invited several candidates, left and right and center and whatever, it doesn't matter. This is just a presentation of their political proposals, and that's what we are announcing. So we hope to see you over there, Saturday, 1 p.m., Murphy Park. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Octavio. Try to be supportive of that as we reach out. We're going to bring a banner up there, have booths up there too, along with some other groups around here. I want to mention a little bit on the private option. That was the thing that we thought we would know about by now, if we were going to be able to start collecting signatures to potentially repulse this decision made by the by this last legislative session. And we're not going to know until next Friday. This will be the third delay that the Attorney General has done on this ballot, splitting hairs over the language. We were ready to hit the ground running one way or the other. Now we're not going to know. We're being real civilized and real polite, waiting to go through the process. Now, 3 times, I don't know if we're going to have to perhaps file a lawsuit if they reject it again and cut into our time again. It leaves us down to a little over 60 days to collect signatures rather than a full 90. This is what they're doing by delaying this language, this approval of this ballot. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to go through with it, but people ought to decide about the future of their health care. I want to just make a couple of points, repeat points that Glenn Gallus, our friend that was here before talking about this, has distilled the message down to very simple. This is the largest, we have the largest majority of Republicans in Arkansas history who voted for the largest expansion of government in Arkansas history, which results in the largest loss of individual liberty in Arkansas history. These are very important points to remember, and I think we need to repeat this and remind ourselves about this. You know, largest Republican majority, largest expansion of government, and the largest loss of individual liberty. So that, there was also, John had a couple of points that he, I don't know if he's prepared, he's the secretary too. John has a couple of things he'd like to say. So let's, and this is a thing that he just came up with that should take just a couple moments. What is that? You want me to hold the microphone?
Now, I've been listening to Bill Whittle on PJTV, Pajamas Media, also Afterburner. He's a phenomenal speaker. And ever since we kind of got our head handed to us in the last presidential election, I was trying to figure out how do we get virtues and values out into the culture and associate those virtues with conservative people. And what Bill Whittle had said today, I watched the video earlier, instead of saying freedom, wealth building, and virtue, 3 really salient, concise points, we would say, instead of freedom, we say, leave me alone. And the 2 questions are, do you want people telling you what to do, or do you want to tell people what to do? So it's freedom, is just leave me alone. Then with wealth building, instead of saying, you know, we can create wealth out of nothing, it's not a zero-sum game. Leave my stuff alone. Just leave my stuff alone. If I want to start a business, you get out of the way when you start a business. And the analogy with that is typically it would be on a college campus, you get a show of hands of how many socialists are in the room. And Bill Whittle says about 60% of the people would raise their hands. Then you ask them how many people have smartphones. You say, okay, bring your smartphones down front, lay them on the table. At the end of this exercise, we're going to take the smartphones down, we're going to sell them, we're going to take that $2 grand and we're going to give it away. That will tell you if you're really a socialist or not. And the third deal regarding virtue is quite simply, don't be a jerk. You know, treat people right, don't take stuff, don't hit people. But it's not the word virtue, it's not morals, it's not, you know, any of that. And that, quite frankly, that's along the lines of what Jeff just said. We have 3 really quick, easy points. You can memorize them, you can explain them. But that's something that we want to be able to do so that when we reach out to other people, we can engage their attention and it's something that they can walk away from and hand to somebody else real easily.
Thanks, Johnny. You'll have John repeat that a little bit after. Now is the point at which we're going to introduce Thomas Brewer. We met Thomas Saturday, had a nice long visit, seen his responses to chats. I hear where he's coming from, and I like where Thomas is coming from so far. And he's going to challenge the Republican ticket for Congress, 3rd Congressional District. And so, welcome Thomas Brewer. Come on up, this is your time. You have till about 7:45. We got a pretty full night, so Q&A within that. So, thanks for coming down.
that I can tell my dad's favorite joke. He tries to convince you of how cold it is, and somebody says, "Hey, how cold is it?" And he says, "Well, it's so cold that the government's keeping their hands in their own pockets." Well, too bad it's the summer. But you get where I'm coming from. And being where we are in our current state of affairs, it's become necessary for all of us to gather in groups just like this to fight against the overreaching, wasteful government. And all of us have a duty to hold these representatives, presidents, senators, all of them accountable to the Constitution that they swore an oath to defend. And right now, we're not seeing that. We're seeing them spend away all of our money, everything. Votes to increase spending come up all the time. And we see them vote to increase spending all the time. Our money disappears into this funnel of government, and we have nothing left, except for $17 trillion in debt. Where's that money going to come from? Well, they expect you and I to pay them. They expect us to pick up the tab for their spending. The government has no legitimate claim on anything. They don't produce anything. And so they have two ways to go about how they spend money. They collect taxes to bring in revenue, or they take out a credit card in your name and continue to spend that money. But not just that. We're not just seeing overspending. I'm sure everybody here has heard of the NSA. Seems like there was something in the news about them this week. All right? No? Okay. Well, NSA has been collecting records since 2009. We've seen the president defend this. We've seen members of Congress defend this action. We've seen members of the Senate defend this action. You know, we have bills like CISPA, FISA, and the Patriot Act and its extension that increase the surveillance state. And with this happening, we know that the surveillance state isn't a thing of the future. It's here now. When the government has all of your phone records from one company since 2009, the surveillance state is here now. And they're going to tell you that it's for your security, that they're trying to keep you safe. But I believe there's a quote by one of our founding fathers. Don't trade liberty for security. Does this sound familiar? Because if you do, what happens? You lose both, and you deserve neither. Well, this has been burdening me for a while. And, you know, about 6 months ago, I went to go lay down, put my daughter to bed. She was 2.5 at the time, she's 3 now. And she looks at me, rolls over, puts her hand on my face, and says, "I love you, Dad." And, you know, of course, being a dad, your heart melts. But then I thought about it, I was like, with all that's going on, can I really respond to her honestly if I'm not doing everything I can to fight against what's happening? I know what's happening. I'm informed of what's going on. But if I'm just going to sit home and complain about it, what does that say about me? Am I really showing my love for my family and for everybody else? And am I serving people the way I should? If I'm just sitting at home complaining about, oh, the government's doing this, I can't look at you in the face and say, I care about you, if I'm not going to stand up and do something about it. If I'm not going to gather into groups like this and do something. If I'm not going to put my name out there to run for U.S. Congress against somebody who is a fiscal liberal and votes consistently to increase the surveillance state. How can I let that stand and do nothing? Well, who am I? I'm you. I'm a teacher, I'm a father, I'm a husband. I'm just like you. I want change, and I want real change, and I'm not afraid to stand up in front of them and tell him that he's a fiscal liberal, he's spending our money right, and that he's for increased government and the surveillance state. You know what? He's going to bully me, and he's going to say, but you don't have any experience. I've got experience. I've got experience paying taxes. I've got experience serving in government schools. I've got experience of the government taking money out of my paycheck every month. I've got experience with Social Security being taken out of my paycheck that I'm never going to see. I've got experience with government. I know what's going on. But look where experience has got us. It's got us $17 trillion in debt and growing. You know, well, who are you? You know, are you qualified to run for government? Well, I'm pretty sure the Constitution says it pretty clear that you have to be under 25, a resident of the U.S., a citizen of the U.S., or a resident of the state you're running. I qualify. I am very qualified to run for U.S. Congress. But here's what I'm going to do for you. And I said this on the Facebook post when you saw it, but I'm going to vote no on increased spending. I'm going to do that. And you're going to hold me accountable for that. Because if I don't, you're going to tell me. You're going to say, hey, you said no on spending, and you voted for it. And I'm not going to vote for you again. And I know that. I know you're going to hold me accountable for that. And I want you to. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to vote. I'm going to vote no on spending, and then go to Washington and say, well, this isn't real spending. This is, you know, distributed over 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm going to vote no on taxes. It seems like the last couple of weeks has been a great time to see the abuses of government. We saw it coming out with the IRS scandal and targeting groups such as these all throughout the country, just trying to apply for tax-exempt status. We're going to have to put you under extra scrutiny. Be on the lookout is the phrasing they use. BOLO. They used be on the lookout for these groups so many times that they had to abbreviate it to BOLO. In the documents it says BOLO, BOLO, BOLO. Be on the lookout for all these groups. If it says Tea Party, if it says Patriots, if it says Conservative, be on the lookout for these groups. Make sure that they go through extra scrutiny before you grant them any kind of tax-exempt status. That's just one more abuse of the government. We have these representatives that go and increase spending, but they don't have the revenue for it. So then the other side comes in and says, well, we got to increase taxes so that we can pay for all the spending that you just voted for. I'm going to vote no on taxes. I'm going to vote no on spending, I'm going to vote no on taxes. Further, I'm going to vote no on any infringement upon your natural rights. The Constitution is pretty clear that we have natural rights based in Lockean philosophy of life, liberty, and property. Anything that's going to infringe on that, upon your natural rights that already exist, that pre-exist the Constitution, that the Constitution was designed for the government to protect you to pursue life, liberty, and property. If it infringes upon your right to do that, I'm going to vote no against it. That's what I'm going to do. Thanks to my friend Lucas here, compiled a little list of things. Well, this isn't as extensive as Obamacare, but you know, it'll do for now. He compiled a list for me of some things that our wonderful leader has done, and just this year, January 1st, the fiscal cliff bill. You remember that? Everybody was freaking out. Increased spending by $332 billion over the next 10 years. But also included tax cuts to 6 industries, which we like to refer to as corporate welfare. These 6 industries get special benefits because of this deal. HR 325, January 23rd, 2013. Suspend the debt ceiling to whatever is borrowed during that time. So we're going to suspend the debt ceiling, and then we'll create a new debt ceiling after you've spent all that money. So whatever that amount is that you spend in this meantime, that is going to be the new debt ceiling. Also, Also, the no budget, no pay. Well, you know, I like that on the surface. However, it is blackmail. Well, what about, you know, no tax increase, no pay? You know, no health insurance, no pay. No vote for Obamacare, no pay. So you have these, that's just two. Let me keep going. HR 933, the Consolidated and Further Continuing Appropriations Act. Also increases spending. But one of the aspects of this increased spending is to help fund Obamacare. Uses funds for emergency spending on non-emergency items. The Skills Act authorizes new spending, $36.2 billion over the next 5 years. Preserving Work Requirements for Welfare Programs, Act of 2013. Authorizes new spending, $36.2 billion over the next 5 years. I'm sorry, that one's $15 billion in new spending in the next 9 months. Billions, billions, billions. Not good for you and me. Now, something happened on the night of May 19th, 2013. The debt limit that was said that they were going to suspend, well, it was supposed to come back on May 19th, 2013. It was a Sunday, not a lot of fanfare over this, no media covered it. Well, they decided that they spent $300 billion, so that's the new debt ceiling. But also now the Treasury must continue borrowing to pay its debts. In the language it says the Treasury must continue borrowing to pay its debts. You can't default. We have to keep borrowing. So here's an idea. I want you to try. I want you to go borrow money, and then to pay off that loan, I want you to borrow more money. That makes a lot of sense, right? That's exactly what the government has done. They voted for this, and it's signed into law now. And then you've heard about CISPA, perhaps. It increased cyber surveillance by vague wording. Any threat to a system from an electronic communication. Well, any electronic communication that you submit can be surveilled. Include your email address, could include your personal information, could include anything. Now, we've been told that this is not a surveillance bill. It's not a surveillance bill. They're going to have warrants for it, et cetera, et cetera. But clearly, with the incident of last week with the NSA, there's no warrants being filed. They're gathering your information constantly. But wait. These are things that our current representative has voted for. Steve Womack has voted for each one of these bills to pass them through Congress, to get them into the Senate, to put them on President Obama's desk, to sign into law. Our current representative has increased spending or increased the debt limit 6 times since January 1st, 2013. This year, 5 months that he was in session, increased spending or raised the debt limit 6 times. And then he voted for a surveillance program, which I'm pretty sure most of us in here don't want to be surveilled. Now, I could go back to the previous years and talk about the NDAA, which allows for American citizens suspected of terrorism or supporting terrorism, suspected, to be indefinitely detained without trial. Suspected. All they have to do is suspect you that you are a terrorist or that you support terrorism.
If you're a Tea Party person, you're a terrorist.
Apparently so. Well, if you look very carefully, there was a joint task force memo between the DHS, the CIA, and the NSA that defined terrorists as those who were fervently religious. How many people go to church? You might be a terrorist. I feel like a Jeff Foxworthy joke right now. This is serious, so I don't know that that's appropriate. If you are passionate about the Constitution, you might be a terrorist. Again, most people in this room, if not all of us. Who is defining what a terrorist is? But the best part is the hypocrisy behind it. I challenged our representative on this and asked him, what about the DA? He says, doesn't find it very consistent. There's wording in there that a lot, that Americans are still going to get the right to trial, et cetera, et cetera. But when you are suspected of terrorism, you are labeled an enemy combatant. And when you're labeled an enemy combatant, they can do with you as they please, because you are now a military enemy against your country. However, we are sending billions of dollars overseas, taking money from poor people in our country and giving them to terrorist groups worldwide. You've seen it happen. It worked out well in Libya, right? Yeah. We're doing the same thing in Syria. We have a senator who goes and visits groups, the coalition, the Syrian opposition coalition. John McCain goes over there, stands with them, those people who have sworn allegiance to Al-Qaeda, and nothing's being done about it. Nothing's being done about this. Who's going to call these people to the table? It's us. We have to stand up to them. We have to take back our country. It's our time. It's our job. We must hold them accountable. Now, again, I'm just like you. I'm a teacher. I'm going to be teaching at Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy this year. I'm a math teacher. I was a history major. Don't explain why I'm teaching math. I'll explain that later sometime if you want to find out. I've also got a master's in divinity from Golden Gate Baptist Theological Seminary. I'm a minister, I'm a teacher, friend, father, parent. I've got the same values. We want to see our government bound back to its prescribed limits. Those limits written and enumerated in the Constitution. And that's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to do these things. I need your support. I need people to go out and knock on doors and tell them, our current representative is a fiscal liberal. He's a fiscal liberal, and I can show you that he's spending and increasing spending over and over again. He doesn't appreciate the Constitution. You can see these warrantless wiretapping programs that he's voted for. You can see that he doesn't believe that you have a right to trial if the government decides to label you as a terrorist. But further, internet sales tax, freedom of commerce, freedom of contracting. There's so many different things that we can go into. But if you go out and you say he's a fiscal liberal and he's an enemy of the Constitution, here's Thomas Brewer. He's a fiscal conservative. He's not going to vote to increase spending. He's not going to vote on increased taxes, and he will hold true to the Constitution, the bounds of the Constitution, and protect your life, liberty, and property. That's what I need from you. I'm Thomas Brewer. I'm going to run for U.S. Congress, District 3. Thank you.